So I'm going to say a few things about Assassin's Creed. First game was released by Ubisoft, French games manufacturer Ubisoft, in 2007. We can talk for the exam these days about any version of Assassin's Creed. We're talking about the whole franchise and the success. We're looking at it from an audience point of view, from an industry point of view. I'm going to focus my thoughts on Assassin's Creed Valhalla because that's by far my favourite of the games to play. Spoiler, I've never played it for even a single second. This was released in 2020, highly successful, very lucrative for Ubisoft, made in excess of $1 billion in the immediate aftermath of its release. Why is it so successful? Well, we can think of loads of reasons. It builds on this established franchise, countless iterations of the main game, spin-offs. We've had film versions. We are due to get a Netflix live-action TV series. We've had books. We've had podcasts. There is a whole network of associated Assassin's Creed products. We can refer to that as examples of synergy. There is a huge, very, very committed fan community that surrounds Assassin's Creed. We've got very active participation on online forums like Discord, like Reddit. We've got huge traction for the game on streaming sites like Twitch. If you go to YouTube, you will see that videos giving tips on the game, you know, watched a couple of million times. So this is very, very popular. If you go to the Ubisoft website, you will see that they have interviews with the individuals who maintain the Assassin's Creed Wiki, which is a gigantic enterprise, basically Wikipedia, but just for the Assassin's Creed extended universe. There's also on that website interviews, photos of Assassin's Creed cosplayers from around the world, and these articles show us how clearly Ubisoft prioritize and understand the importance of maintaining positive relationships with these fan communities who are so essential to the success and marketing of the game. So it's really important to understand that when you're thinking about audience. This is a very specialized and committed audience that has been cultivated. Remember, it's an open world, immersive RPG. That's role-playing games for the non-specialists, i.e. me. And this is something, of course, like many RPGs, this game can be quite violent, although I am assured by the games players in my class that it's not that violent, but it's still rated PEGI 18. This brings us up, of course, to the question of regulation. Now, regulation, as we know, an area of the media that is essential to all industries that you are studying. You've got to think about the theory of Livingston and Lunt. Of course, what that comes down to is balancing the needs of citizens and consumers. Remember, when we think as citizens, we think about what is good for everybody, for the whole of society. When we think as consumers, we think a little bit more individually. We think about what we want to do, what we want to buy, what we want to read, what we want to watch, and in the case of Assassin's Creed, what we want to play. Livingston Lunt identify and address the fact that balancing the needs of these two different groups, which are essentially the same people, just at different moments in our lives or with different impulses, balancing the needs of these two groups is highly problematic and essentially virtually impossible. So, the games industry, a self-regulating industry, they of course use the PEGI system. We've got a PEGI 18. Remember the moral panic, the debate around video games and violence, hotly disputed, hotly debated, hotly contested, but an argument and a debate that never seems to shift, that always seems to be around, flares up from time to time. If you were writing about that, of course, you would probably want to link it to Albert Bandura and his effects model of thinking about audience as essentially passive, who acquire these transmitted by the media. They see these modelled patterns of behaviour, often transgressive behaviour, such as, for instance, playing a very violent, very graphic. The development of technology has rendered these games very cinematic and graphic. Playing an RPG as an assassin. So there are lots of things that make this game really powerful, really impressive, really likely to cultivate and attract an audience. In Valhalla, you play as, I think it's Eivor, but what Ubisoft did, they brought out a lot of DLC, downloadable content, add-on games, crossover stories with popular characters from earlier in the franchise, including from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the character of Cassandra. There's, of course, a female protagonist, widening potentially the audience for the game, male gamers and female gamers. There is something here for everybody. So many things that explain the success of the Assassin's Creed franchise and Valhalla in particular. Think about regulation, think about fan communities and the importance of those very committed audiences. Ubisoft know their importance when they're marketing the game. We can look to Mirage is the next game that's due in the franchise, due in 2023, and already trailers, very cinematic and impressive looking trailers available on YouTube. We can guarantee that when that game is eventually released, the early preview copies will go to influential streamers, influential people in the games world who will play the game first and leak out that word of mouth and promote the game for those opinion leaders, will promote the game for the wider gaming community. So there's a few thoughts on Assassin's Creed Valhalla as part of the Assassin's Creed franchise. Remember, Paper 1, Component 1, Section B, and we're thinking industry and audience that you really need to get up to speed with when you're thinking about the Assassin's Creed franchise. And I'm off to play a little bit of Assassin's Creed now. Spoiler, I'm not. I'm off to mark a few essays. But I'll see you soon. Bye.